So moving to the next round, which will be, we'll start with Mr. Calkins for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, thank you for being here today. I would like to know, in order to have useful information or useful data, how many times a day would a Canadian citizen's cell phone need to be pinged in order to be valuable to PHAC?
As I think I said earlier, and as might be useful to repeat again, the data are not individualized. The data are aggregated, de-identified, and anonymized. They have no personal value in role, no personal value usefulness. It has nothing to do with personal information.
I think you're missing the point of my question, Minister. If my phone was pinged at 3 a.m. once a day, you would find it consistently on my nightstand beside my bed and would be of little to no value in the managing of COVID-19. So my question is, in order for the data to be useful, how many times a day would a Canadian's cell phone location have to be provided to the government in order to make an effective decision? How many times a day? How many data points a day?
As I said, Mr. Chair, the information that we use is not personal information. So I'm sorry, you should ask those questions to someone else, certainly not or someone in PHAC. The information, the data we're using are anonymized, de-identified, and aggregated.
So if you don't know how many times a day a Canadian cell phone is being tracked, how do you know the data is useful? Like I said before, if we're only pinging that phone once a day, how can you be making informed decisions about Canadians' whereabouts or their movements? How many times a day would you need to know where somebody is in order to usefully track people moving around to curb the spread of COVID-19?
That's a better question about the usefulness of the information. I'll quote experts and top world researchers from the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention and from the European Commission Joint Research Center. They say mobility explains transmission and spread and can reduce mortality and mitigate the need for lockdowns. That means, in basic words, saving lives and saving jobs.
You talked a lot about de-identified data. Are you talking about data in its purest form, that you actually have raw data points?
No, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair, as I mentioned earlier, the data of which we speak today are data that you can access immediately on your telephone by clicking on the COVID trend. You can also go to the WeatherCan application. 1.7 million Canadians have done that in the recent months. You'll see the data. These are mobility data that we have, and you'll find out why these data are obviously not individualized, not personalized. They are de-identified, aggregated, and anonymized.
So de-identified data is stored in bits and bytes, ones and zeros on a medium. That information, when you delete a file, Minister, and you don't have to have a PhD in computer systems technology or computer science to know this, when you delete a file, all you delete is the link on the file allocation table that references the data on the stored medium. Anybody with any skill whatsoever, anybody under the age of 35 today could probably go back and look at any particular data point on a data medium and re-identify data. It's not a complicated thing to do. So, Minister, what assurances can you have or provide this committee and provide Canadians that their information cannot be re-identified?
We're talking about deletion of a file. Whether the file is deleted or not makes no difference. The fact has no personal information value, no personal information content. That file has no individual level data. It's de-identified, it's anonymized and aggregated. So that file has no value for anyone who would seek personal information.
In your testimony or in your briefing at the start, you mentioned that the information that you have would be useful for other levels of government. Has the Public Health Agency of Canada shared this information with other agencies, provincially or municipalities, or any other actors since you've come into possession of this data?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking it. Ms. Thompson And Mr. Allison and Dr. Tam made a reference to that. Do you want to mention that again, Ms. Thompson?
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Minister. Mr. Chairman, we do provide some report summaries that we share with provinces and territories to help inform their decision-making and their situational awareness with respect to public health and mobility, population mobility. In addition, as the Minister already mentioned, we also prepare summaries of reports that we publish on the COVID trends. That is who we share the information with.
Thank you. And now for 5 minutes, I understand Ms. Sachs